Finding the right plants for a nano aquarium is harder than a lot of people think because a lot of the information available online can be misleading. Since I keep a wide range of planted nano tanks, I wanted to share some of the plants that I think are perfect for smaller aquariums, especially if you're new to the planted tank side of the hobby. I keep every featured plant in this video in my own low-tech planted nano tanks without a CO2 system, so they should work perfectly fine for most people in the hobby. I'll also leave a link in the description to my free low-tech plant index tool, which is preset to show nano tank suitable species, as I'm only featuring a small selection in this video. So starting with background plants, and I have two main recommendations. The first one is Bacopa caroliniana, which is an easy to grow stem plant with a slower than average growth rate when compared to most other stems. That makes it an excellent option for low maintenance tank setups while still providing plenty of foliage to fill out the background of the tank. On top of that, it can also develop brown to red tones in its leaves, but unlike some other colourful stem plants in the hobby, it doesn't require expensive lighting to do that. In my experience, an affordable entry-level light running for 12 hours per day is enough to get this plant to colour up. My second background recommendation is Cryptocoryne crispatula. This one has a completely different leaf shape and growth habit when compared to the Bacopa, giving you an alternative option for the background of your tank that'll still provide plenty of foliage. I've kept this in several tanks now across a wide range of water parameter and lighting conditions, and it's always been very easy for me to grow. So moving on to the midground, and I've got three recommendations for this one depending on the goals for your specific tank. The first one has to be Echinodorus tropica, which is essentially a far smaller version of Amazon sword. Thankfully it maxes out at around 10 centimeters or 4 inches, making it an excellent choice for planted nano tanks while still being very easy to keep. Now this did used to be difficult to find outside of Europe, but availability is increasing and there's a few shops over in the United States and Canada selling it now. My second recommendation for the midground is Hetonia palustris, which is often overlooked in the hobby, but it's an excellent stem plant for the midground of nano tanks. It's another very easy species to grow, and because it's native to Northern Europe, I found that it works perfectly well in unheated room temperature aquariums too. Now I'm a big fan of plants with this feathery leaf structure, so it instantly caught my eye, but it adds plenty of texture and makes it easy to fill out the midground or even parts of the background in a nano tank. The final recommendation for the midground is Cryptocoryne pettii. Unlike some Cryptocorynes, this one does keep its compact smaller size, making it great for nano tanks, and it's also very beginner friendly to keep in most aquarium setups. Under lower intensity light, this one does tend to stay green, but with a little bit more light intensity it can develop the brown to bronze hues you're seeing in this video clip. But the best part is you still don't need expensive lighting to get this plant to colour up and show these tones in your specific aquarium. The tank you're seeing in this video clip runs on an affordable entry-level plant light, and I'll leave an affiliate link to it in the video description, and I've got it set to maximum intensity for 12 hours per day, and as you can see it's coloured right up. This lets you use Cryptocoryne pettii in a slightly different way and break up the sea of green that's very common in low-tech planted tanks and add pops of colour to the setup. Moving on, and we get to the foreground of the tank, and I have two main recommendations for here. The first one is Pygostemon helferi, and I'm really starting to like this tank, but it is a little different from most of the other species featured in this video. That's because it does seem to do better under moderate to high intensity lighting rather than basic entry level lights. That said, I've still found it very easy to keep in multiple aquariums where I do have a suitable light on it, but it has been difficult with an entry-level lighting unit. Most plant nurseries that offer this suggest it can max out at around 10 centimeters or 4 inches, but in my experience it stays closer to 5 centimeters or 2 inches, making it perfect for the foreground. I've also seen people claim that it has to have a nutrient-rich substrate, but that's definitely not the case because it's grown in inert sand in this tank without any root tabs or anything like that. My favourite thing about this plant is its unique ruffled leaf shape, because it really does stand out and catch the eye with it compared to other nanotank friendly foreground plants. My second recommendation for the foreground is Cryptocoryne albedo brown, which is a great option to add a pop of colour to a low-tech planted tank. Unlike a lot of the other brown and red plants in the low-tech side of the hobby that need high-intensity light or longer photo periods, Cryptocoryne albedo brown is very easy to colour up. I've kept this plant in tanks running entry-level, intermediate level and advanced category plant lights without issue, and it's done perfectly well in all of them. On top of that, just like a lot of other popular Cryptocoryne varieties in the hobby, it does well across a wide range of different water hardnesses and pH levels as well, meaning most people can keep it in their tap water without issue. But its smaller size and natural brown tones make it a great option for adding pops of colour to the foreground or midground of most nano tank setups. Moving on to carpeting plants, and a lot of people get these confused with foreground plants, but there is technically a difference. The term foreground plant is usually used for plant options that will grow in individual clumps, whereas the term carpeting plant is usually used for plants that will spread across the foreground and form a carpet over time. Again, I have two recommendations for this one, and if you're familiar with my channel, you can probably guess that the first one's going to be Helenthum telenum green. This plant's worked very well for me in a wide range of different aquarium setups with different lighting conditions and different water hardness levels. The tank you're currently seeing in the video clip's running a moderate intensity light, and as you can see it's filled in a lot better and it's grown slightly taller than some of my other tanks. But if we switch to this tank, which is the exact same plant grown under an affordable entry level light, you can see that it is still filling in at a far slower pace, I'll add, but it's also nowhere near as tall or lush. My second recommendation is Marcellia hirsuta, which is becoming very popular in the hobby because it's easy to keep, but it also has a unique 4-leaf clover-like appearance. Now, the tank you're seeing in this video clip does use a higher intensity light, but I've also grown it under moderate intensity and lower intensity lights without issue, but the lower intensity light did have a 12-hour photo period. Again, just like Helenthum telenum green, under a lower intensity light it does tend to take longer to carpet out because there's less usable light getting down to its level, so it takes longer to photosynthesize and produce energy to grow. Next up are epiphyte plants, and unlike most aquarium plants in the hobby, these are usually attached to rocks and driftwood rather than planted in the substrate, making them perfect for adding pops of colour and texture and detail to your hardscape. Technically, I have 4 recommendations for this section, but the first one has to be the gold standard of Anubias. Now, there's plenty of varieties of Anubias in the hobby that can work well in a nano tank, but my 2 favourites are Anubias nana and Anubias petite. Anubias nana gets a little bit taller, making it perfect for creating sight breaks and hiding spots for your fish, but Anubias petite stays far smaller and is usually used to add pops of colour to rocks and driftwood. The next recommendation is Bucephalandra, and there's a huge number of these varieties available in the hobby now, and most of them stay small, making them an excellent choice for nano tanks. While there are a lot of varieties of Bucephalandra that just stay green, there's also some that'll turn brown, blue, red or purple under the right lighting, but in most cases this is difficult to do under a low-tech tank with affordable lighting options. Bucephalandra Kedagang is my personal favourite, and I've kept this in a wide range of tanks with a huge range of water parameters and lighting conditions, and it's always done well for me. My final recommendation for an epiphyte plant is some type of moss, because this can work well in so many different setups and it also has a practical purpose. That's because if you keep shrimp, the moss can provide excellent grazing surfaces for algae and biofilm to grow on them, and then your shrimp will go across it and eat them all. Now, most sources do tend to recommend Java moss, but what a lot leave out is that there's technically 2 different varieties of moss with the same common name of Java moss. While Vesicularia dubiana can work well in a soft water tank, it can struggle in harder water setups, but Taxophyllum barberi, which is a more popular version that's called Java moss, works well in a huge range of parameters. But in my experience, I think Taiwan moss is even easier than both of them, especially under entry-level lighting, and that'd be my recommendation for you. But just in case you're curious, you're looking at Christmas moss in this video clip, and it is very popular due to its appearance, but it can be a little bit harder to grow than Java moss or Taiwan moss. Moving on to floating plants, and as the name suggests, these float on the surface of your tank rather than being planted in the substrate or attached to your hardscape. Now, there's a huge range of floating plants available in the hobby today, but some of them aren't really suitable for nano tanks due to their longer root systems, but I have 3 great recommendations. The first one is Salvinia minima, which I've found to be very hardy and easy to grow in a huge range of aquarium setups. On top of that, it also has a moderate to fast growth rate, which can help absorb excess nutrients in the water column to keep things safe and stable for your fish, as well as reduce the chances of algae growth. But one of its main advantages is that so many plant nurseries have this in their range now, so it's easy to find and very affordable. My second recommendation is Salvinia cucullata, which has a far more unique appearance than most other varieties of Salvinia in the hobby. Now, this has a very fast growth rate in my experience, so it can quickly form dense mats across the surface of your tank, so you do have to keep up with your maintenance to keep it in check. But this means it's even better than Salvinia minima at keeping water parameters safe and stable and keeping algae under control in certain tank setups. The only real downside of this plant is at the time of recording, none of the major plant nurseries in Europe or North America seem to offer it, so it's hard to find and you usually need to get it on eBay or Etsy. My final recommendation for a floating plant is Ricciocarbus natans, which is one of the most unique looking plants in the hobby. You can see the top side in the video clip getting a good idea of what it looks like, but its underside has a unique purple appearance similar to something like Spirodella polyriza. Now, depending on your needs, the biggest advantage of this plant could be its slow growth rate, because it's definitely the slowest growth rate floating plant I've ever kept in the hobby. This makes it an excellent option for anyone wanting floating plants in their tank but looking for a low maintenance setup that doesn't require a lot of maintenance to keep the excess plant mass in check. Because of its smaller leaf size, another tip that I'd offer is to get yourself an affordable hair comb, because it lets you scoop a lot of the excess plant mass off the surface of your tank very quickly. Finally, we get to red plants, and these can be a little more challenging in a low-tech planted tank because they usually benefit from stronger lighting and in some cases a CO2 system. That said, there's still some great options for low-tech planted tanks, and my top recommendation is Rotala Blood Red. Technically, the Rotala Blood Red SG variety is even easier to colour up in a low-tech planted tank, but unfortunately it's harder to find than the regular Rotala Blood Red, so a lot of people just go with that. One thing I do want to stress is that I've been able to get Rotala Blood Red and the SG variety to colour up under entry-level plant lights without issue, and it works very well in a large range of lighting conditions. The downside is that in a low-tech planted tank with lower intensity lighting, little to no liquid fertilisation and no CO2 system, this plant can have issues. The most common one by far is that as the upper sections continue to grow, they can shade out light from the lower sections of the leaf, causing the bottom part of the stem to start to melt. Anyway guys, that brings the video to an end. I hope it's been helpful. Thanks for watching and good luck with your planted nano tanks, because there's a lot of plants out there that can work in smaller tanks.